A baby, wrapped in a brown, dusty shawl, was found abandoned in a wheelbarrow. Everyone gasped. Who dropped this baby here? Barrow pushers, gathered to return their carts, froze in shock. Murmurs, whispers, confusion. Then Madame Agatha, the store owner, stormed in. She looked at the baby with disgust. "Since your parents didn't want you and dropped you like trash in my shop," she hissed, "let me help them. Discard you properly." With cold eyes and tight fists, she grabbed the baby like a torn rag and stormed out toward the open market trash bin. People watched. Some cried, but no one moved. What happened next will break your heart. Subscribe and watch the full story now. It's cruel, it's devastating, but it's also a story of hope, redemption, and the power of love. The full story.
It was still early morning in the bustling market of Odu Junction. The sky hadn't fully brightened, but the wheelbarrow pushers had already gathered in front of Madame Agatha's locked shop, pacing and grumbling like hungry goats waiting for a careless farmer. "Madame don't carry her sour face. Go sleep again," one of them muttered. "Maybe she daydream of how to insult us fresh this morning." Another one chuckled. They waited and waited. Time ticked slowly. By 8:10 a.m., Madame Agatha finally arrived, strutting like a queen whose crown was made of pepper. She didn't even greet anyone, just hissed loud enough to fry fish. "Madam, you're late today, oh. You won't make we lose all our customers finish before you open gate," one of the young boys said, half joking. Madame Agatha dropped her keys and flared up like hot oil touching water. "And so I should break myself for Una, since all of you now have sense more than me." The men exchanged glances, tight lips, folded arms. No one dared reply. She unlocked the metal door with a sharp twist, like she was punishing the padlock. Once it creaked open, the rush began. Everyone scrambled in like hungry people rushing for leftover jollof rice at a wedding. One by one they picked their wheelbarrows, old, worn, but dependable. They queued as usual to pay Madame Agatha the daily rent. Then came Hilary, the latecomer. As always, "Clap for Am, our chairman of latecomers, Don Land," someone hailed. Hilary strolled in like he was on red carpet. "Why rush life?" he replied lazily. "I'm my only burden, and even me, I know fit kill myself to carry myself." They laughed, shaking their heads. Typical Hilary. But the laughter died the moment Hilary reached for his wheelbarrow. His hand froze mid-air. He stepped back slowly, rubbed his eyes, then screamed. A loud, raw, frightened sound, like someone who just saw a ghost wearing their clothes. "Jesus!" Everyone turned. The boys rushed in. Then they all froze. Inside Hilary's barrow, wrapped in a tattered brown shawl, was a newborn baby, sleeping quietly, peacefully, unbothered by the chaos around. Madame Agatha gasped, her voice cracked. "A baby! In my shop!" She stepped back, shaking. Who brought this child here? When? How?" No one answered, just silence. Thick, heavy silence. The kind that makes your heartbeat sound like thunder. Hilary staggered back as if the baby would suddenly stand up and slap him. "This is witchcraft," someone whispered. "This market is cursed," another hissed. One by one, the wheelbarrow boys began to slip away, muttering prayers, avoiding eye contact, like being there longer would make them suspects. Madame Agatha looked at Hilary. Hilary looked back at her. No words. Just wide eyes. Shaky breath. Something was off. Terribly off. Agatha's hands began to tremble. Her shop suddenly felt like a crime scene. She stared at the baby again, and something in her face changed, just for a second. Pain? Guilt? But she blinked it away. "This is not ordinary," she murmured. This thing is a trap." Nobody spoke, but deep in their hearts a cruel question began to grow. Who abandoned this baby here? And why? Why must it be in my shop? The silence was still thick in the shop when Madame Agatha suddenly lunged forward. Before anyone could blink, she grabbed the baby from the wheelbarrow like she was lifting a sack of rotten tomatoes. Her face twisted. "If your mother or father decided to throw you away like expired yam," she hissed, "my shop is not a trash bin." She clutched the baby roughly to her chest. Since they dropped you like nonsense, let me help them finish the work. I'll go and place you where proper rubbish belongs, inside the market dustbin. That way you'll be discarded properly, no confusion. She turned towards the door, took one step, 2, 3. The whole shop was frozen. Then no, 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 a shaky voice echoed. Hilary. His legs almost failed him as he moved forward. Please, Madam Agatha, don't do that. I will take the baby. Madam Agatha stopped mid-step like someone had slapped sense into her shadow. She slowly turned, her eyes burning. You? Hilary? She looked him up and down with mocking eyes. Her voice dripped with sarcasm. You want to keep a baby? You think say she be like Barrow where you day push with style for junction? People around giggled awkwardly, unsure whether to laugh or be alarmed. Hilary stepped forward again, trembling but firm. I may not get plenty, he said, voice shaking, but this baby no deserve to be dumped like this. I'll keep her. Anyhow, she go learn my street way, and she go survive. The shop went quiet again. Even the flies seemed to stop buzzing. Madam Agatha snorted. Survive with you? She laughed, loud and bitter. This one the comedy of the year. You ain't a hustle for ordinary daily food? You want Ray's Pekin? But Hilary didn't reply her. His eyes were fixed on the baby in her arms. Gently, slowly, he stretched his hands forward. Madam Agatha looked at him again, then at the baby. Something flickered in her eyes. Regret, confusion, something she couldn't understand. But she handed the child over. Hilary held the little girl like she was made of light. She squirmed, then settled, as if she already knew him. Baby, he whispered, voice cracking, I name you, Gift, because I found you in my barrow. I no know if na God give you to me or na your mama, but you're a gift anyway. His tears dropped on her shawl. He didn't even bother to wipe them. Madam Agatha stared, then burst out laughing again. But this time, it didn't sound as wicked. It sounded sad. Well, she said, arms crossed, let's see how this your new life will go, from pushing Barrow to pushing baby. The others murmured, shook their heads, and left. Just like that, a careless push led to fatherhood. A market boy became a parent, and in the middle of wheelbarrows, dust and noise, Gift found her first home. Hilary didn't push any Barrow that day. How could he? He had a baby in his hands, a tiny human, warm and helpless, and somehow she had become his responsibility in one blink. He walked home slowly, shielding the child from dust, stares and gossip. People whispered as he passed. Na baby he carry so? I beg, hope say he no thief peeking from one corner. But Hilary ignored them. By the time he reached his area, the sun was high, the heat unforgiving. He arrived at his room, if you could even call it that. A small, dark, stuffy place squeezed between a broken fence and a drainage gutter. When it rained, the room smelled like soaked socks and rotten beans. When it was sunny, it felt like an oven. He pushed the wooden door open and stepped in. The room had one mattress, 2 torn shirts hanging on a rusty nail, a black pot in one corner, and a bucket of water he fetched 3 days ago. But to Hilary it was home. He looked down at the baby in his arms. Gift, he said softly. Welcome. This is your home now. He placed her carefully on the mattress like she was royalty. He knelt beside her, talking like she was old enough to understand. This is all I get, Gift. This small corner is everything. No cot, no AC, no baby song. But it's ours. So please, try to be peaceful. If you no stress me, maybe I fit raise you without dying young. You hear me? Amazingly, Gift smiled. A soft, angelic smile, the kind that melts even a hardened criminal. Hilary froze. He blinked, then chuckled. So you hear me? Now what, you smart like this? That was how their new life began. He didn't waste time. He wrapped Gift with his cleanest towel and rushed to the one person he knew had raised children, Mama Angel, the woman who sold pap and akara in front of the compound. When she saw him carrying a baby, she gasped, Hilary, Jesus, whose child is this? He went on his knees. Mama, please help me. I need feeding bottle, diaper, anything we pickin' they use. Mama Angel's eyes widened. Feeding bottle? Diaper? From where to where? You carry Barrow go market, come back with pickin'. Na pickin' dem they dash for junction now. Some women nearby heard and gathered. Before he could explain, the mockery began. Wonders shall never end. Your mates they hustle to build house, you they hustle to borrow baby. Barrow no tire you, na baby you add join, you want die quick. Hillary you no even get focus, God help you, you still they use brain at all. They laughed and hissed. Na man you be like this, he be like say you they do exchange Barrow for baby, which one better? But Hillary didn't argue. He just stood there, eyes tired, hands shaking, but still holding gift like treasure. Finally, Mama Angel sighed and walked into her room. She came out with an old feeding bottle, 1 pack of half-used diaper, and some cloth. Take. Nah, for my grandchild before dem travel. If you mess up with this child, thunder go fry you. You hear? Hillary nodded like a boy who just got a second chance at life. He turned back to his gutter-side room with Gift in his arms and borrowed baby items in a black nylon bag. He didn't know how the journey would go. He didn't know where food would come from. But one thing was clear. Gift was his now. And somehow that baby girl already made his broken life feel like a miracle in motion. The second day. The sun hadn't even stretched its fingers yet. The sky was still rubbing sleep from its eyes when Hillary was already awake. Not because he heard a rooster crow, but because Gift stirred beside him with a soft sound only a baby could make. He sat up from the mat on the floor, his bones aching from yesterday's rush and his heart pounding from today's uncertainty. He touched her forehead. "Good morning, Gift," he whispered. "Hope you slept well inside this oven room." She stared at him with wide, innocent eyes, no complaints, only trust. Hillary smiled weakly. Then he got to work. He fetched water from the public tap, warmed some pap on his small charcoal stove, and bathed the baby inside a paint bucket he had converted into a tub. With his trembling hands, he fed her gently with pap, some of it spilling on her chin. He wiped it with a corner of his shirt and said, "Gift, we dey go work today, so no vex if I no give you fan or AC for back." Mama Angel had helped him design something like a baby carrier, an old wrapper and a sack bag sewn into a pouch. He tied it on his back, slipped Gift in. She settled, wrapped in his sweat and hope. Then, with one deep breath, he pushed his barrow and stormed the road. Surprisingly, Hillary got to Madame Agatha's shop before anyone else. Even Amika, the so-called market landlord, who everyone believed slept under the tomatoes table and who always come before everyone. When the other wheelbarrow boys began to arrive, they paused and burst into laughter. "Hillary," one called out, "this one you come early today, you dey chase early money or na baby poop wake you." "Which miracle be this?" Amika said, yawning. "I no believe say you go beat me to shop today." Hillary chuckled, tying his wrapper tighter. "I get peekin' I dey cater for now. My life don't change. If I no wake up, she go cry. And if she cry, mesef go cry." They all laughed again, this time louder. But the laughter had mockery in it. One of them, tall John, looked him up and down and shook his head. "You dey carry baby like this? For back? For market work? My brother, I no think say any customer go even allow you near their load again. You go scare dem." Another added, "People go think say you do one kind protest for street, fatherhood matters." They laughed hard, but Hillary just smiled. "Make Anna laugh. But this baby na my own now. If nobody go help me, I go still push Barrow with am till God look our side." Then he bent down, tied the rope around his barrow, adjusted the carrier on his back, and hit the road. The sun grew hotter. Dust rose in the air, but there was Hillary, sweating, pushing, struggling, with a baby at his back. People stared, some pointed, some hissed. A man with a baby on his back pushing wheelbarrow? Is this one normal? Some customers refused to use him. "Please, I no want any distraction. This one will you carry picking? What if she cry halfway? Let me go carry load myself." He lost 3 customers before noon. But still he didn't stop. Under the sun, through the noise, past the shame, Hillary pushed. And Gift? She slept. Peacefully. as if she trusted his back more than any cradle. But inside Hilary's heart, it was war. Tears welled up in his eyes, not from pain, but from helplessness, from hunger, from humiliation, from the fear that maybe, just maybe, he had made a mistake keeping this child. But every time she moved at his back and let out a soft breath, he knew he couldn't let her go. She was his gift, even if life was punishing him for holding her. 5 years later, little Gift was no longer a baby wrapped in torn shawl. She was now 5 years old, small but sharp, fast and smart like a lizard dodging pepper. Though skinny, her eyes held fire. The kind you see in people who have seen too much too early. Every morning, while other kids ran to school with water bottles and neat uniforms, Gift tied her faded gown tight, lifted her wide plastic basin, and followed her father to the market. If Hilary pushed his barrow, Gift carried her basin. Together they moved from stall to stall, customer to customer. "Make I help you carry ma?" "Madam, my Pekin go carry this pepper, I go carry the bag of rice." They were a team. Father and daughter, one barrow, one basin, 2 hearts, one hustle. Some customers pitied them and smiled, others just wanted cheaper service. But slowly, little by little, Gift started earning small money, sometimes 10 naira, sometimes 20. Some days nothing, but she never complained. She would collect the money, run back to Hilary and say proudly, "Daddy, see what I made today." Hilary would look at her, teary-eyed but smiling. "Thank you, my Gift. One day all this go make sense." But of course, life didn't get easier just because they tried. Some wheelbarrow boys were not happy. They would grumble loudly. "See this man and him small Pekin. Dem go carry 2 customers at once." One day, one of them Monday, shouted across the road, "Hey, Hilary, this thing we honor they do no fair at all. You they carry customer, your daughter they carry another one. No double hustle be that, we too want chop." Hilary kept quiet, but Gift didn't. She dropped her basin, placed her hands on her hips and rolled her eyes dramatically. "If you want customer, go find your own," she snapped. "Next time try come near my papa when he day work. You go here am." The boys laughed, some admired her boldness, others were annoyed, but nobody could break the bond they had. Life was still hard. Some nights there was no food. Some days the rain would beat them on the road. Sometimes they fell sick and couldn't afford medicine. But one thing never changed. They never gave up. Because even though they didn't have a house with tiles or a bed with foam, they had each other. When Hilary sat down, tired and dirty, Gift would rub his back with her tiny hands. When Gift had a wound or tear on her dress, Hilary would patch it with a piece of cloth and whisper, "Nah, small girl you be, but you get lion heart." They didn't need perfect. They only needed love. And in that broken, dusty life, their love was unbreakable. At age 7, most children her age only talked about dolls, sweets and cartoons. But Gift was not most children. One hot evening, after a long day of sweating through dust and market noise, she sat beside her father, holding a plate of gari and groundnut. She looked at him with those serious eyes, the ones that always made Hilary pause. "Daddy," she said softly, "no matter how small we make per day, we must save something." Hilary blinked. "Save what?" he asked. "We're already eating air and struggling to survive. You want to now remove from the little?" Gift nodded. "We can't work like this forever, and since I can't go to school for now, we need to start planning for a better life. Even if it's 5 naira a day, we'll save it." Hilary hesitated. "No, Gift, I want you to eat well. I don't want people to look at you and say you're suffering because of me." Gift smiled, a little sadly. "Let them say what they want. I'd rather suffer small now than suffer forever." That night they began. A small plastic container, no lock, no key, just discipline. And from that day on, no matter how little they earned, they dropped something inside. 5 naira, 10 naira, 20. Even on days when they were tempted to use it for food, Gift stood firm. "It's our future, Daddy. Let's not eat it." Years passed. Gift turned 15. She had grown lean but tall, strong and fearless, with arms that could push Barrow like a man and a heart braver than most adults. No more Basin. Now she pushed Barrow side by side with her father, like a twin engine moving through life. They became a symbol of hustle in the market. Father and daughter, sun or rain, sweat or tears, they were there, together. Then one morning, as they drank water from a shared sachet, Gift wiped her face and looked at her father. "Daddy," she said, "I want to upgrade. I want to use tricycle for this business." Hilary's eyes widened. "Tricycle? As in, cakey?" She nodded. He laughed nervously. "Where we want see that kind money? You know, say our savings no reach one bicycle talk less of machine." Gift stood up. "Let's check it." They went home that night and opened the container they had been feeding for 8 years. When they poured the money on the floor, it filled an entire basin. Tears dropped from Hilary's eyes. Not because it was just money, but because it was discipline, hunger, years of sacrifice, and the wisdom of a child. When they counted it, it was enough to buy a fairly used keke and even repaint it. They bought it. And that was how the girl who once used a basin became a proud tricycle rider. Reactions poured in fast. People celebrated them. "Wow, look at them now! God is good, oh! This girl gets sense. At her age, someday follow boy up and down." Even Mama Angel danced and said, "From wheelbarrow to cakey, I tap into this miracle." But not everyone was happy. Some of the old wheelbarrow boys grew cold. "Nawa, because dem get small cakey now. Dem no dey greet again. She think say she better pass us? Watch and see. One day the cakey go spoil and dem go come back to square one." But Gift didn't listen. She would just drive past them, eyes focused, chin raised, her father seated beside her sometimes working another route. They weren't rich, they weren't living in luxury, but they had moved. From struggle to strength, from ground to gear, from Barrow to better. And the best part, they were still together, still strong, still unbroken. Years later, they had grown, not just in age but in vision, in purpose, in business. What started as one old, fairly used tricycle became 2, then 5, then 10. Now they had 20 tricycles, clean, branded and working daily across the city. They called it Hilary Gift Logistics. Each morning, drivers would arrive as early as 6 a.m. to pick up their and sign daily remittance. By evening, they'd return, pay their balance, and head home. Some drivers were fathers trying to feed their families. Others were young hustlers looking for a second chance. Hilary and Gift gave them all a shot. They didn't forget what it felt like to start from nothing. Their house was no longer by the gutter. Now they lived in a fine bungalow with tiles, running water, a fenced compound, and a welcome doormat. Gift had her own room for the first time in her life. She had a wardrobe with more than 2 clothes. They had 2 good cars, not too flashy, but solid, smooth, and fully paid for. Hilary still liked to sit outside in the evening with a cup of Gary and peanuts. Even in riches, he'd joke, "Make Gary no go vex, say we forget am." But the biggest shock came when the Keki Manufacturing Company reached out. They had been watching Gift's rise for years. Her story had gone viral on social media. The girl who pushed Basin now runs a fleet of Keki. They invited her to the head office. And just like that, Gift's face appeared on their national billboard. Big boards, on highways, in airports, roundabouts, wearing a branded t-shirt that read, "Strength, Hustle, Hilary Gift Logistics." People who once laughed at them now took selfies in front of their compound. Some who mocked her when she carried pepper in basin now brought their CVs. "I just dey greet. I dey hail you, in case you dey hire drivers," they would say sheepishly. Some brought CVs for account clerk, for cleaners. All manner of CVs are on their tables. Mama Angel wept one day. "God, so na this same Hilary where dey wear torn shirt, na him dey drive SUV now." Hilary would just smile and say, "Na God, oh, and one small girl we teach me how to save." They had truly forgotten their past pain, not because it never happened, but because it no longer defined them. They now walked with heads high, not pride, but in gratitude. Their lives were proof that poverty is not permanent, that love can build empires, and that even from inside a wheelbarrow, greatness can rise. A new chapter had opened, and the title was written boldly on every tricycle that left their yard each morning. Hillary Gift Logistics. We move with purpose. One fateful day. Gift and Hillary sat side by side at their polished office desk, flipping through files and laughing softly over memories attached to each one. The air-conditioned office of Hillary Gift Logistics was calm, decorated with framed awards, pictures of tricycles, and a massive poster where Gift's smiling face promoted the brand nationwide. Just then, the receptionist knocked lightly and stepped in. "Sir, my 2 women are here to see you. They say it's urgent." Without hesitation, Hillary nodded. "Let them in." Seconds later, the door opened, and in walked Madame Agatha and a younger woman who looked a bit tense but familiar. Hillary and Gift stood politely. "Good afternoon, ma," Gift greeted. But Madame Agatha didn't smile. She pointed straight at Gift and declared sharply, "That's the baby." Hillary and Gift exchanged confused glances. "Sorry?" Hillary asked. "Yes," Madame Agatha snapped. "That's the baby, the one you found crying in my shop 22 years ago. We named her Gift." Gift blinked rapidly, lips slightly parted, but didn't say anything. The younger woman stepped forward, her voice soft. I'm your mother. I was in school when I got pregnant. I hid the pregnancy from my mom. When I gave birth, I panicked. I sneaked into her shop and dropped you off there. I was afraid. I was young. I should have done better. I'm sorry, but it's time to come home, Gift." The room fell silent for a second. Then Hillary chuckled. Gift slowly got up, grabbed her handbag, walked towards the door and said, "Okay, let's go." She paused, looked back, and both she and Hillary burst into laughter again. Her face turned cold and serious now as she faced the 2 women. "Can you eat your cake and still have it? I am not the child you threw away 22 years ago. My name is Gift Hillary. Go and look for your own child." The younger woman's eyes welled up. "Gift, please." But Madame Agatha wasn't ready to beg. She stepped forward and barked, "You are my daughter's child. Since the day she dropped you, she's not been able to get pregnant again. She's lost 2 marriages. 2. No man wants a woman who can't give him a child. So what do you want us to do? Die without a grandchild?" Hillary rose slowly from his seat, a quiet but strong smile on his face. "Madame Agatha," he said calmly, "do you remember the day you almost threw that baby into the market trash bin? You were shouting, 'Useless baby.' You wanted to fling her away like trash. But I stopped you. I saved her. I raised her. I carried her on my back when I pushed Barrow. That's not your grandchild. That's my child. Her name is Gift Hillary." The younger woman's knees gave way and she dropped into a chair, sobbing. But Gift stood tall, her eyes firm. "My story started in a trash corner, but look at me now. I found love, safety, and purpose with the one who chose me, not the ones who threw me away. So don't come here now with your regrets and guilt." She turned and held her father's hand. "Daddy, we have a meeting by 4 p.m. And just like that, they walked out, leaving the 2 women to sit in the weight of their choices. A child once thrown away had become too priceless to reclaim. As they walked out of the office, receptionist and 2 security men walked into the office quietly but firmly. "Please," the receptionist said politely, but with a serious tone, "we need to lock this office. You can continue your discussion in the reception hall, but you can't stay here anymore." The tension in the room was thick. Madame Agatha rose slowly, dusted her lace blouse, and let out a bitter laugh. "So this is what it has come to?" she hissed. Her eyes burned with pride and entitlement. "A wheelbarrow pusher turned logistics boss now wants to claim my grandchild?" She turned sharply toward the receptionist, voice shaking. "Tell that Hillary, that useless, smelly boy I once chased out of my shop, that he would surely hear from me. If he thinks he can keep what rightfully belongs to me, he should rethink, because it won't happen. Never. I will see him in court." Receptionist turned to the security men. "Please, escort our guests outside." As the guards approached, Madame Agatha shouted, "This isn't over! You will hear from my lawyer." And with that, the doors closed behind Madame Agatha and her daughter. A storm had just started, but Gift and Hillary had been through worse, and they weren't backing down now. At the courtroom was packed. Journalists, spectators, and legal minds filled every seat. On one side sat Hillary and Gift, quiet, composed, but visibly tense. On the other side, Madame Agatha sat with her daughter Becky, chin raised high, her lawyer flipping through documents with dramatic flair. Becky couldn't look anyone in the eye. Her hands trembled in her lap. Madame Agatha's lawyer rose and began confidently. "My lord, we are not here to cause chaos. We are simply demanding justice. 20 years ago, my client's daughter, Becky, then a minor at 17, gave birth to a child. Out of fear and confusion, and being unable to face her strict mother, she left the child briefly in her mother's shop. At no point did she say she had abandoned the child permanently." He turned and pointed at Hillary. This man, this wheelbarrow pusher, seized the opportunity, picked up the child and raised her as his own, without proper documentation, without legal adoption, and now refuses to return the child to her biological mother. I asked the court, why is he so afraid of releasing the child to her rightful family? Gasps echoed in the courtroom. Hillary shook his head quietly, but said nothing yet. The dragging began. The arguments went on. Photos were displayed, witnesses spoke, tears fell, and truth poured out like water. Gift, sitting beside her father, never said a word. She held his hand tightly. He had raised her. She knew who her real parent was. Finally, the judge, a stern elderly woman with tired eyes, banged her gavel. "Enough," she said. The room fell silent. She removed her glasses and looked straight at Becky, who sat with her head bowed. "Miss Becky," the judge began, "you were 17. Young, yes, but not too young to know right from wrong. You gave birth to a child, and out of shame or fear you abandoned her in a shop like an unwanted item." She paused. "That child could have died. She could have been stolen. She could have grown up on the streets. But this man, Hillary, whom you call a wheelbarrow pusher, chose to raise her, fed her, protected her, loved her." The judge's voice rose. "You did not come back for her. You did not look for her, and now that she's grown and successful, you show up to claim her like forgotten luggage." She turned sharply to Madame Agatha. "And you, ma'am, you are guilty of encouraging your daughter's irresponsibility. Instead of remorse, you brought your ego to this courtroom." Then she looked at the court clerk. "Read my verdict." The clerk stood and read. "This court finds Madame Becky guilty of child neglect and endangerment. She is hereby sentenced to 3 years in a rehabilitation centre with full mental evaluation and parenting therapy." The court also declares that Hillary is the legal guardian and father of Gift, who is now an adult. No person, be it Becky or Agatha, shall disturb or contact Gift without her written consent. This case is closed. The clerk continued. No child deserves to suffer the way Gift did, abandoned like trash, only to be claimed years later like treasure. This court will not tolerate emotional manipulation disguised as biological rights. Hillary is not just her guardian by circumstance, he is her father by love, sacrifice, and proof of consistent care. This court stands for justice, not entitlement. Case dismissed. Bang! The judge's gavel echoed like thunder. The courtroom erupted. Some people clapped, others whispered in disbelief. Cameras flashed. Madame Agatha gasped and fainted into her seat. Becky broke down in uncontrollable tears. But Hillary? He turned to Gift. His eyes watered, his lips trembled, but he managed a smile. Gift hugged him tightly, whispering, "Thank you for not giving up on me, Daddy." The cameras caught it all. The tears, the embrace, the love that money and status could never fake. As they walked out of the courtroom, hand in hand, reporters pushed microphones in their faces. "Mr. Hillary, any words for the public?" "Gift, how do you feel about the verdict?" Hillary simply replied, "Let this remind everyone, being a parent is not about blood, it's about staying when others walk away, it's about love, not biology." They entered their black SUV and drove off, escorted by their company's security convoy. A new headline flashed across national TV that evening. Wheelbarrow man wins. Court declares him legal father of abandoned baby turned celebrity. Gift says he's the only parent I've ever known. Hillary Gift Logistics trends nationwide for powerful story of love and loyalty. And just like that, a chapter of pain was closed, a chapter of healing was written, and a chapter of peace had just begun. That case didn't just close a chapter, it opened doors they never imagined. The story of Wheelbarrow Man and the abandoned baby swept across the country like wildfire. Within 48 hours, Hillary and Gift were trending on every social media platform. TV stations called. Newspapers ran front-page headlines. Radio shows replayed their court speech like a national anthem. Then came the blessings. Advertising agencies flooded their inbox, asking Hillary Gift Logistics to be the face of their family-focused campaigns. Major brands offered billboard contracts showcasing their love story under bold headlines like, "Love is not DNA, it's commitment." A wealthy businesswoman in Abuja gifted them $25 million, saying, "I threw my own child away 30 years ago, but watching you gave me the courage to go and find her." They received awards from humanitarian foundations, orphan welfare boards, and even the Ministry of Women Affairs. Students created skits about their story. Churches invited them to speak. Corporate firms offered Hillary free logistics vehicles to support his fast-growing company. Hillary, once mocked for pushing a wheelbarrow, now drove a branded delivery van with his company logo, Hillary Gift Logistics, delivering with heart. And Gift? She began a national mentorship program for abandoned children and teen mothers. Her first speech was titled "From Trash to Triumph, Why I Chose My Father." They didn't just win a case, they won a nation's heart. And the same people who once whispered, "That's the abandoned baby," now proudly pointed and said, "That's Gift Hillary, the girl who was thrown away," and rose like a queen. And as for Hillary, he always said just one thing when asked about it all: "If I had to do it again, I'd still pick her up from that barrow in that shop, every single time." Hello, besties. What a journey, right? From a dusty shop to courtrooms, billboards and national awards, Gift and Hillary showed us that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about who stayed, who loved, and who never gave up. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. Tell us, would you still choose someone who abandoned you? And remember, your past doesn't define you. Your strength does. Until next time, besties, stay strong, stay kind, and never stop believing in your worth. Love you.